But Saquon Barkley is now going in the late second round, but he'll slip to the third round in some of these drafts. I think the key here, we'll give Justin a chance to talk, is that the offensive line for the Giants was so bad last year. Barkley was coming off of the ACL injury. He caught a lot of passes, but was not very efficient at running the ball. Do you think, Justin, that the offensive line for the Giants is improved enough? You have them ranked 29th in your rankings, but they've added 5 net players to this group. Do you think it's improved enough that we can take Barkley confidently in the late second round?
Yeah, I think so. This is kind of a pessimistic view to rank him this low. It doesn't usually bear fruit when you just revamp the entire offensive line all at once, although it did happen in Buffalo a couple years ago. And interestingly enough, New York added that same offensive line coach this offseason. So the same guy who made it work with Buffalo a couple years ago is now in New York. They really do have a lot more talent in the room than they did last year. So, I mean, they could, if they coalesce, if they gel quickly, they could be an average unit, which would be leaps and bounds over the probably bottom 3 unit they've been for the last year or two.
Yeah, and if you're going from bottom of the league to mediocre, that's a huge boost for Barkley. I mean, that's huge. Mm-hmm. They don't have to be elite to really improve his outlook. TJ, you have any thoughts on Barkley?
Yeah, I mean, as a lifelong Bills fan, I was upset to see Brian Daboll over in New York, but I think a coach, offensive guru like Daboll is somebody that can really boost an offense. How he's going to implement Saquon into the offense is TBD, but we know Saquon can catch. We know he can handle a big workload if he can stay healthy. Obviously, been dealing with some injuries. The concern for me is just some of his advanced metrics just fell off an absolute cliff last year. He was tied for 41st in yards after contact per attempt, which is kind of a red flag. But again, dealing with injuries, comes back healthy. I think he is actually fairly priced at this, where he's going kind of fringe second, third round. And there's like a big chunk of these guys that, depending on your draft, can go at the end of the second round, beginning of the third, and a lot of them might fall into the like technically they're dead zone guys, but we have a really big chunk of guys here at this turn that I think are just fantastic picks.
Yeah, and you could start off with the running back in the first round, go receiver in the second, and might get one of these guys early in the third round, which is a pretty strong start. I was actually going to mention the same advanced stat. He was also, in terms of yards per contact per attempt, he was also 49th in out of 61 eligible backs in PFF rushing grade. Not great. Yeah, his advanced stats were not good, but I'm trying to chalk that up to just, coming back from the knee injury. He had an ACL, MCL tear, and maybe, at 25, he should be young enough to recover from this. I'm not like super optimistic about him, but I'm starting to warm to the idea. If you can get him at early third or near this 2-3 turn is pretty appealing.
Especially if he's your RB2. I think he's ideal as an RB2. For sure.
Leonard Fournette is the next guy I'd like to talk about. I'm just going to go through these in ADP order right now. Fournette, signed a big deal worth up to $24 million, 3-year deal from the Bucs. So it looks like they're committed to him. He's 27 years old. He was the RB5 prior to his ankle injury in week 15. He was averaging 92 total yards and 0.77 touchdowns. The touchdowns were great. It's a good offense, but the key to his Fournette, his scoring was his involvement in the passing game, and he led all running backs in targets with 77 through week 14. They did draft Rachaad White. They have one of the best offensive lines in the league, according to Justin. I think you ranked him 4th, Justin. The interesting thing here is how much does White. I don't think Gio Bernard's much of a threat anymore. He was basically kind of shuffled off to the side late last year. The question is White as a rookie. Really, I've seen some good pass catching stats from him from college. People are kind of talking him up, but as a rookie, do you guys think that he will, get Tom Brady's trust and enough to eat into Fournette's workload without an injury to Fournette? TJ, why don't you go first?
Yeah, that was actually the main point I was going to bring up on White, is that Tom Brady is such a stickler for things like pass blocking. If there is even one small error, we're just going to see him shunned to the sideline. And with Fournette, I mean, you mentioned his passing game work, and this kind of reminds me of what I think could happen in Green Bay, where there's just so much passing work to go to the running backs. People are looking for the receivers to replace Devontae in Green Bay. In Tampa, Godwin is a pup candidate. We got word that Gronk is retiring, so people are saying, "Oh, look, let's go after Cameron Brate," things like this. I think Leonard Fournette is just on track to be that target leader, like you mentioned, throughout the first half of the season until Godwin comes back. They have no reason to rush Godwin back. So if I miss out on a first-round running back, and for whatever reason I love like the hero running back type build, after someone like Aaron Jones, like I'm comfortable taking Fournette in the first 2 rounds if I don't think I'm going to come out with another running back for a few rounds and him just anchoring my team. I love Fournette this year.
Justin, with the offensive line real strong, I think one of the questions that I have ranking Barkley and Fournette is I don't know who I'd rather have. I think I'd rather have Fournette, and I'm just looking at my rankings right now. I've got Barkley 1 spot ahead, just projected. I think I'd rather have Fournette because the offensive line is as good. He's probably as good of a runner at this point. We don't know where Barkley's at with his knee. He seems like he's trusting it more. But would you have a take on Fournette versus Barkley, or just Fournette in general?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm on the same page. I think I'd rather have Fournette, kind of like what TJ was saying. Brady's not going to want a rookie back there until he can prove that he's good in pass protection and all the nuance of that. We saw what happened with Ronald Jones throughout the season, throughout last season. Fournette was pretty much out touching him 3-1 or something like that by the end of the year. The offensive line in general is super strong. They lost Kappa, Ali Marpet's gone. They brought in Shaq Mason for like a 5th rounder from New England, which was probably the steal of the offseason. So I think they're still in good shape. I think Fournette's going to carry the load again, and it's probably a better option than Barkley behind the Giants' offense in general.
Yeah, and Fournette catches passes too. Barkley catches passes, but this Tampa Bay offense is probably going to score more touchdowns. I think we can safely say that.